with one piece of research that we are also doing still in the lab, and it's very active, which again shows the value of network science, which is network medicine. Network medicine is a rethinking of how the cell works from the network perspective. And the reason why this is important is because the Human Genome Project has provided us the list of genes, which is to say it provided us the nodes, but it never gave us the links, right, how they interact with each other. And this is equivalent with giving you the proverbial phone book that doesn't exist any longer, but you remember those times we had the phone book with the addresses and the phone number of everyone, right? And I say, here is Copenhagen's phone book. Can you tell me how the city works? And can you tell me to find somebody? And you would say, I have no idea unless you also give me a map, right, of how the roads and where the nodes and things like that. And genomics didn't give us the map. It just gave us the list of the names and the addresses. And network medicine is out there to try to address that. And we have at Harvard a division of network medicine that has more than 200 researchers working on using these ideas to further human health. And there are major successes of that. One of them is that how do you think about disease in the context of a network like that? And one of the key discoveries was that when you look at the disease genes, and here I'm highlighting in purple the genes that are involved in asthma, which is a respiratory disease, they're not randomly distributed. They all tend to clump together, right? And the reason is because asthma is really a breakdown of a part of the network, and those who are part of that, they could actually break down in many different ways. And this is what we call a disease module. And we can use these type of tools to really identify the network neighborhood where asthma really resides in the cell. And then once you have that neighborhood, then you can start designing drugs, because the drugs have to hit there in that neighborhood. You can try to think about drug repurposing opportunity, treatments, and so on, because it's the flashlight effect. Right now, you can ignore the rest of the network and just focus on that neighborhood, and that's very manageable. And this has led to some major successes. One of them, we actually, when COVID started, my lab, I was leading a collaboration between multiple labs at Harvard, MIT, Boston University, where we ended up using these tools to predict what of the existing drugs, about 6,000 drugs, would be effective against COVID. And then our colleagues at Boston University ended up experimentally testing that and showing how good our predictions are. And this was very interesting because this was before the vaccine became available. And at that time, it wasn't at all obvious how long will the vaccine take. Remember the predictions that it may take sometimes 2 to 5 years to get, or 10 years to get a vaccine, a successful one. So this was, at that moment, at the early stages, the only path to go forward is to find existing drugs. You couldn't develop new drugs because it takes 10 years to approve a drug, right? So we ended up doing that, but the one that actually now affects many patients, which is a network-based predictions, is a company that I founded several years ago that uses network tools to predict what drug will work for you as a patient. And this is a major problem because, for example, when it comes to RA, rheumatoid arthritis, typically the doctors say, okay, you have the disease and let me start giving you a set of drugs one by one and come back 6 months later, see if it worked, and then come back again 6 months later. If it didn't work, I give you another one. And using network tools, we can actually take out that guessing process. And we can just purely tell you this drug will work for you and the other one doesn't. And this is a tool that is already available. Every week, actually, thousands of patients are using that in the United States. So it's just been approved actually by Medicare. And there's the same type of tools now were used in my lab, and I didn't have a chance to talk about it, is to say how the food molecules that you eat actually are perturbing the network. And using that, we can actually predict what molecules in your food are healthy, and they could even cure disease, food and drug, and which are the molecules that can actually affect particular cellular processes towards creating disease. So this is a general tool that cannot be only used in medicine, but can be also used in nutrition and the way we think about how, what is the healthy food or not. So this is probably a good moment for me to stop. And what I would like to finish is this particular slide, which is, you see two materials here. One is a soft and malleable material, which is graphite, right? Your pencil pen is from that. And the other one next to it is diamond, which is the strongest material we have on Earth. And how amazing the fact that they're made exactly of the same atoms. And what's the difference between them? And it's obviously the network, right? The way the carbon atoms are wired together can give you to a very soft and malleable material, which we prize because of softness, so we can write with it, or it can give you the hardest material. And what I hopefully convince you a little bit is that not only the fact that most complex systems we care about are really network-based systems, and we must use a network framework to understand that, but really the structure matters, right? And you cannot really have a hope of understanding these complex systems unless you start first mapping out the network behind that. Because that structure, that network determines the system's robustness, and I showed you how. We talked about spreading, how important is the structure for how the things are spreading. We talked about controllability, allow us to make very precise predictions of who is involved in the brain in specific processes. And it affects resilience and observability and many other things. So at the end, you know, in the era of complex systems, there is no more way of understanding complex systems unless you start with the basics. And the basics is the network, the connectivity between the components that you care about. And once you got more or less that right, you can start asking higher level questions of network dynamics and so on. But the journey of understanding complexity really goes through networks.